I'm not a chef. I've never actually even made this before. I usually do my recipes for the first time while you're watching. I'm just a guy who gets a little ambitious, I guess you can see when he sees recipes, and doesn't plan properly. Welcome. Hello to all my friends out there in YouTube land. It's your good buddy Philtastic Phil here. Welcome back to the channel. And we've been invaded. We all have. That's why we're in the kitchen. We haven't been invaded by, I don't know, Russia or... Honey, what are some other things that invade? I put Russia.
Invade?
What?
Invade?
Yeah, invade. I don't know. Any vermin or anything? No, we've been invaded by Skrulls. So what do you do when you're invaded by Skrulls? You make Skrull burgers. Not actual Skrull burgers, but I'm going to show you how to make those today. Shout out to Cheerios, by the way, and Trader Joe's, not sponsored. So let me show you what we're using besides Skrulls. All right, so let's look at our ingredients here. We've got 2 cups of peas. This is what 2 cups of peas looks like in a 1-pound cup. Now you might notice these are cold. Actually, what's cooler than being cool? Ice cold. That's right, these are frozen. That's fine to use, except for the one I just dropped on the ground. Let's put that one here. Okay, my countertop is clean. Next, it says to use 7 ounces of broccoli. Frozen broccoli is fine, cut into florets. Here's a little hack. If you're gonna buy your frozen broccoli, they usually come in florets. And this is probably a little bit more than 7 ounces, but that's fine. And oh look, here's a little one. A little baby broccoli floret. Yes, we are gonna eat it, so don't name it. But it's okay because it's frozen, so it's already dead. Okay. Then you have 5 ounces of kale. You can use frozen or fresh. And I should tell you, the broccoli and the kale, I basically used Die Hard with a Vengeance math, where, you know, the scene where he's at the water fountain trying to measure out the water in the containers, and it doesn't really quite make sense even to this day. Well, that's basically how I did it. This is about half of a bag of kale, and it says it's already washed, but I washed it again because I don't trust them. Then 2 cloves of minced garlic. Hey, buddy. 2 cloves of minced garlic. I buy these little frozen ones, so that's fine to use. Just make sure that you're not buying them from China because they do some stuff with it. And 1 celery stalk chopped. That's right, just 1. So you'll be eating some celery the rest of the week. A little bit of mustard. This is all they had at Trader Joe's that wasn't grossly expensive. I usually prefer spicy brown myself, but I think this will work. 1 cup of rolled oats. That's right, rolled oats. Half of a cup of chopped walnuts. That's right, these aren't chopped yet. We're gonna do that in a bit. I just wanted to show you what walnuts look like. I don't know, in case you've never seen a walnut. And over here, they asked for 1 chopped onion, and I forgot to buy an onion. So I was gonna just try to do it without onions. Then I remembered I had a frozen bag of peppers and onions from Trader Joe's. So I poured them into a container, picked out the onions, and there you go. I chopped these up a little bit. And to be honest with you, the fact that they were frozen, I think made it a little bit easier to chop up. Hey, buddy. And as you can tell, the little guy is up because he wants to eat too. We also have here a cup of breadcrumbs. Now, the recipe calls for Italian spices, but this is what I did as a little shortcut. We'll see how it works out. I have Italian breadcrumbs. That's right, these are breadcrumbs with the spices in them already. That's what all that is. So that's what we're gonna use. And in the back here, of course, I got a little salt and pep to taste. And I have an eggplant and a pepper, which I have not washed or cut yet, but we're gonna use that as a topping. So the first step is we are boiling a medium pot of water. Now, I don't have a medium pot. Just got this big one, so that's what we're going to use, and that's fine. I just didn't fill it up all the way. So this is going to boil, and then we'll come back to it. Guess what?
What?
I'm cooking, and I'm recording at the same time, so no cursing.
Oh, poo.
But guess what I'm making? I could save one for you if you want.
What are you making?
I'm making veggie burgers.
What are you making?
I'm making a veggie burger.
Well, what makes you think I would want one?
Bless you. What, Mom?
What makes you think I would want one?
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Okay, so our water is boiling. It's time to get our veggies in. And you've got to do this in a specific order. Let's move that to the side. So, the first thing we're going to dump in is our kale. And you may notice that with the kale, I left the stems on. There's a good reason for that. This is going to get all soft. So the stems, I guess that doesn't matter. And if I'm wrong, then I guess that's mistake number one. So let me dump that kale in. We're going to let this kale boil down for 2 minutes. So you'll see me in 2 minutes. My time, but not in your time. Okay, our 2 minutes is up, and in between I just used a slotted spoon to just kind of push the kale down and give it a little stir every now and then. So next I'm going to add our frozen peas. Get them all in there. Some of these are a little bit more stubborn, so I'll just toss those in. Okay, and we're going to set our timer for 5 minutes. See you in a few. You may have noticed, by the way, I used a lot of little dishes and plates just to make sure I have everything separated. You don't need to do that. I don't normally cook like that. I did that so number one, you could just kind of see the ingredients visually. And because I like doing dishes and putting them in the dishwasher when I don't really need to. Little tidbit for you. You're welcome. Okay, that's been all gurgled up nicely. So it is now time for us to add our broccoli. And we're going to set the timer for another 2 minutes. And while that is cooking down, I'm going to tell you a little bit of history about Skrull burgers. I went over this in my most recent series of shorts. I did 30, well, you know, I'll say to them, I did 30 shorts in 30 days, all about the Skrulls in preparation for Secret Invasion. Mm-hmm. And I actually spooled it all together into one video, so this will be a good time to mention that I'll put a link up there and at the end of the video, all that fun stuff. This is also a good time to mention I'm not using a tripod, hence the shaky cam. Yeah. Did you know the Skrull burgers actually appear in the comics? No. Yeah, well, I'll tell you. See, way back in the 60s, Fantastic Four issue number 2. That was the first appearance of the Skrulls. 4 Skrulls came to Earth, impersonated themselves as the Fantastic Four, right? Mm-hmm. And just, started kind of causing damage around New York City, trying to get the Fantastic Four in trouble. So, of course, the Fantastic Four confront them. And the way that Reed Richards beats them is he builds a device that hypnotizes them into thinking that they were cows. And 3 of them transform into cows, one of them escapes. The cows, at some point, find them, for the Skrull cows, I should say, find their ways to slaughterhouses and to farms. And pretty soon, the Skrull meat and the Skrull milk wind up in the supermarket. People who ingested the meat, a very small percentage of them acquired Skrull-like powers, like they could change shape and everything, but they also came down with some disease where it was an intense fear and hatred for Skrulls. So these, I think about 4 or 5 of them, formed what's called the Skrull Kill Crew, where they would go and kill as many Skrulls as they could. And this would sometimes put them at odds with superheroes, sometimes help them avert, big alien invasions and disasters and whatnot. But at one point, they came back, the Skrull Kill Crew came back during Secret Invasion. Actually, it's interesting, it was kind of based on the mad cow disease that was around in the early 90s.
Yeah. I can't forget that.
Yeah, Grant Morrison and Mark Miller, both British writers. That's one of their first major projects. And at one point during Secret Invasion, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna kill Skrulls and make Skrull burgers." So that was my little inspiration to make our Skrull burgers. But no real Skrulls, we used veggies. Okay, so after letting our broccoli in there for a couple minutes, I went ahead and drained it. You didn't see that because I only have one hand, and can't drain it and drain the water and record at the same time. So we're letting that cool, and while that's cooling, I've got in another pan some olive oil here, ready to go. We're gonna saute our garlic. For about 2 to 3 minutes. Now my 2 minutes isn't up yet, but my oven tends to run hot, and you can see my garlic looks like it's ready. So now, with another minute to go, I'm gonna just put in those onions and let that go for a little bit, just for about a minute. The garlic and onions are very, I believe they call it aromatic. I could be wrong. Honey, when you cook garlic and onions, is it called aromatic when it smells really good?
Yeah.
She said yes. I don't know if you heard that. But I'm happy about that. I'm happy for a couple reasons. But I'm happy I got that right. And it smells awesome. I'm letting it go just a little while longer. I'm trying to get a nice browning going on the onions here. This was a little bit of a dicey situation because the onions are cooked already, the frozen onions, so it's going to give me a little bit of a smoky flavor that I think is going to work in my favor. If not, it's just going to be another mistake. But if you've watched this program before, or even if you haven't, I'm not a chef. I've never actually even made this before. I usually do my recipes for the first time while you're watching. I'm just a guy who gets a little ambitious, I guess you can see when he sees recipes, and doesn't plan properly. Welcome. And these are looking pretty good to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut the heat. And here's a little shortcut, by the way, for chopping your walnuts. Yeah, you could do it by knife. Probably if you're good with a knife, you could do a good job with it. I'm not the best, but I'm gonna take a shortcut by using my coffee grinder. Shout out to Joe from Anachronic Comics, by the way, with the espresso mail calls. I haven't watched one in a while, I might be a little bit behind. But he just hit 1K, so congrats to you. And that just reminded me because of the coffee grinder. No other reason. But check out Joe in case you don't know him. I'll put a link somewhere. Maybe in the description. That sounds about right. So my better half just informed me that the coffee grinder, while convenient, may be a bad job because it is a pain in the ass to clean. So instead, we have our KitchenAid mixer here. She recommended I puree the walnuts instead. So let's give that a go here. Very important, before you turn the blender on, make sure you have the cap. Trust me, I could speak to this from experience. And kudos again to my wife, because that looks like it worked pretty good. And I think that's going to save a step because I'm going to put the veggies in here in just a moment. So I've poured half of my cooked vegetables and the celery in my blender here. I left the walnuts in. That might be a mistake. We'll find out shortly. Only because I know that those are probably getting wet and are going to stick to the blades. But let's go ahead and try to chop this down here, and then I'll add the other half. Okay, so what I learned, and we do this by, what's the word called? Trial and error. You don't want to do them all at once because what's going to happen, and I should preface this by saying I don't own a food processor, but supposedly this should be working out pretty good. And it's not that it isn't working out well. This is actually the consistency that you want, where you have a little bit of texture, but it's pretty much going to be like a paste. The problem is at the bottom of this, that all gets clogged here. So I've been putting them in a little bit at a time, about halfway each time, and then digging it out with the spatula. It's going to take me a few minutes to put that together, but I'll show you once everything is all blended up how it looks. Okay, so I've done blended everything, and I should note, by the way, before when I said trial and error, I meant to say this is what my wife suggested I do, and she was right. Right, honey?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me show you what it looks like when it's all blended up. Okay, yeah, so it just looks like a whole lot of green. And yeah, nothing much to add to that. I'll show you the next step. Okay, to this we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. So we have our oats, and you can stir these in afterwards. Again, I only have one hand, so you're gonna see the pour, and then I'll stir. Here are my breadcrumbs with the Italian spices. And, oh, let me get my onions here. Okay, so the rest of the ingredients I needed 2 hands to put in. So when I shut it off, I added in my onions and garlic, my mustard, salt and pepper, and now we're going to give it a mix. Again, I can't do that one-handed, so you're not going to see me do that process. I should note, as I do with all new recipes, it's always a good idea to make sure you have your Grubhub or your DoorDash near you, just in case this doesn't turn out how you want it to. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's all mixed up, and shout out to my beautiful, glorious, and so kind, beautiful wife. That's right, I said beautiful twice. Not because I couldn't think of another word, because she deserves it and more. For mixing this up for me, because the little guy, who you may hear in the background, could not wait. He needed to have his dinner right away, so we got some water boiling for him for some pastina, and who knows, if this sucks, this might be our dinner too. But in the meantime, I did chop up some really nice red pepper, and my wife was, again, glorious enough to chop up some eggplant for us. To use as a topper, we're going to grill these, or actually I'm going to pan fry them, I think, a little bit, just a little bit of salt. We'll see that in a moment. And what's good about this is that if I've got some eggplant left over, which I anticipate, I may just save this for some fried eggplant or eggplant parm tomorrow night. Be back in a second. Okay, so the next part you're not going to see, the next part I should say, if I speak English clearly, you're not going to see. I'm going to basically take these with my bare hands, that's why no ring or no watch, and form patties out of them. So I'm going to do that. I can't hold the phone obviously while doing that, so you won't see that. But I promise I will show you the patties once I'm done. Okay, so these are what the patties look like formed. Surprisingly enough, they actually formed pretty well. And for the most part, really didn't fall apart too much on me. I got one in there too because I was afraid to stack it too far up. So we're going to, well, here, I'll go over to the stove here. We're going to cook those 2 minutes on each side. You're not going to see me while cooking, at least I don't think so. But before we do that, I do have in another pot just some of the eggplant there. Just kind of getting up real nice, and I just put a little bit of salt and pepper on it. We're going to do that a couple minutes on each side too. That's just going to be kind of like a topping, and I have some buns roasting as well. So I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Okay, we do have a bit of a tragedy. I went to flip them, and as you can see, one of them didn't make it. So I don't know, maybe I'll put that as a side or something, but we're starting to get a nice kind of browning on them, I guess. But we'll be back. So once it's assembled, it kind of looks tasty here. What I did is I had laid the eggplant, as you can see. I thought I used a little too much oil on top of a paper towel just to absorb some of that. We're just going to put it on it like that. I'm probably going to put one more because I think these are kind of small. But we'll see how it goes. So these are the ones that came out looking nice. These are the ones I'm giving to my wife. Mine are over here. These are what we would call a, honey, what's a nicer way of saying shit show? A craptacular. How about that? So my wife is going to sample these in just a moment, and we'll get her reaction. None of these for the little guy because of the walnuts. We don't know if he's allergic to nuts yet or not. We were going to a pediatric allergist to figure things out, but we're not going to take that gamble tonight. Speaking of gambles, my wife's going to try it. Well, this might be the first fail, I think. These are, I'll show you, these are the craptacular ones again. I added more to this. To be honest with you, the one on top was supposed to be 2, and I just didn't want to go into another thing of buns. Call me lazy, but I wasn't too pleased with at least how it looked. But my wife's look pretty. You're still out of camera, don't worry, honey. So, first impression, honey, what are your thoughts as far as the appearance?
I think it's fine.
Does it look like a Skrull to you?
The color, yeah.
See, that's a trick question because Skrulls could change shape and appearance. Which, by the way, if you, I don't know if I'm going to mention this when I do my little interlude later on, but I did do 30 days of Skrull shorts, or 30 days of Skrull facts, why don't we say, in anticipation of Secret Invasion. I'll put a link to the playlist, and I actually did a super cut recently of the whole 30-minute facts on Skrulls. So you can watch that if you're bored, if you really like Skrulls, or if you just need something that with the nasally, screwy voice to fall asleep to. So, honey, why don't you go ahead and dig in and tell me what your thoughts are, unless you want more peppers. Okay, I asked her to try it first without ketchup, just to give the impression here.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
What does it taste like to you?
Broccoli.
Well, there's a lot of broccoli in it.
Yeah, you can taste the broccoli more so than the other ingredients in it. For
Does
sure.
the eggplant help or does it hurt?
I think it helps. I think it adds a different flavor to it.
No, buddy, don't worry. You're not going to have any of this. All right, so I'm going to try mine, and mine is messier.
I like it.
All right, well,
And again, this is not my appetite. It's just, I made this many tonight. Like I said, the first one, especially on top, is just nasty and falling apart. So I'm going to just go from the bottom here. And this is what you do as a husband. You know, if you make something for your family, you eat the one that might not be the best. You give the rest to your kids or your wife or whomever. You know, maybe you're a dude that likes dudes. That's fine. Okay. It's not bad.
It's pretty good.
I'll say this, you definitely do taste the broccoli. I taste a lot of the mustard as well. I don't know if I said this while I was cooking, but I'll repeat it if that's the case. The original recipe also calls for soy sauce. I didn't do that because I figured I didn't want to make it high sodium at all.
I like the eggplant because it actually gives it like that meaty taste for some reason. Do you taste it? You know
Somewhat.
what I mean? Yeah.
But, yeah, so if I make, well, is this something you would want me to make again if it was cleaner?
Cleaner. I like it. Yeah.
Well, I thought we had a fail, but I'll say this,
No.
it's messy. I'm going to have to figure out how to bind them better next time. I really patted the hell out of them, so I don't know. But we have
It's
like,
actually delicious.
wow.
The more you bite into it, the more flavor you get. You don't get that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, all right. Do you think this is what an actual Skrull would taste like?
I don't know about that.
Well, there's some questions that we're not going to be able to answer
Yeah,
tonight.
I know.
So, okay, so it's not a failure. It's messy, but it tastes good. And this is all vegetables, so
Yeah.
we're going to be pooping a lot tonight. On that note, I think there's nothing left to say, but, well, you want to say anything first, Tony?
Thank you for watching.
Peace, love, and comics. You want to add anything, buddy? No? You want my hat? Thank you. Peace, love, and comics, and you want to say hi to Miss Rachel at all? No. Take care, everybody.